Good morning, everybody. John Spielkley here for GAI Insights. Bring you the top news, essential, important, or optional. Today we have Kevin Petrie from Bark Research. Lovely to have you, Kevin, as a guest trader. Luda, Ankash, and Paul. Excellent. All right, Ankash, you start us off with the first one. And remember, everybody, if you're interested in following along, go to gaiinsights.com/articles. Here we have Build with Gemini Deep Research. Go ahead, Ankash.
Yes, so the first one that we have for today comes from Google, and as John mentioned, it's about their new version of Gemini Deep Research.
All right, Luda, what'd you think?
Yeah, so I actually rate it as important, not because of the deep research, but there are two announcements here. One is Google is announcing the API that you can integrate into your apps and now make deep research available as a subset of your applications. It's built on Gemini 3 Pro, and it's a powerful extension. I thought that this is in due course, right? So we should have expected this API to happen. The second piece of the announcement is Deep Search QA, and that is open source. It's a benchmark to evaluate the accuracy of the multi-step web research tasks. So I like that piece, and I think that this is important for AI leaders to know that this is happening. So for me, that's why it's important.
All right, Kevin, you're in the research business. What do you think here?
I'd say important as well. I think that the capabilities on the face of it are not groundbreaking, but it is coming from Google, which full disclosure is a client of ours, but I think they're making a lot of headway in the market. And they said during a very positive earnings release for Q3 that 70% of their customers are using some type of AI capabilities within their Google portfolio. So I think that the world is starting to pay close attention to what Google's doing in this space with Gemini and related AI capabilities. And this is an important thing for the AI leader to keep on their radar screen. Not essential, but important if they have the time to read it.
All right, Akash, where are you on this?
I was also important on this one, John. I think Luda and Kevin covered it. But one thing I think that they are doing it is they are rolling this out in the Notebook LM functionality as well, or the Notebook LM tool that's in the roadmap. And I think Notebook LM is doing wonders with presentations right now. So having that deep research functionality will make it more effective. So important for me as well.
All right, Paul, product announcement here.
Yeah, no, I'm on the optional side, but you know, I think to me what's more interesting is I think we're starting to see the setup for Gemini or Google really going after OpenAI. So remember back in the browser wars, Netscape had revenue on their browser, and Microsoft came in for free and decimated them. Right now, 70-80% of OpenAI's revenue is subscriptions at a $20 amount. And right now it's still $20 a Gemini, but they could easily drop that to zero, take the losses, and happen to do that maybe a month or two before their IPO goes out. You could really see them jammed up there. So I think we were looking for a setup here, but this news is optional, in my opinion.
Yeah, Paul, I think that's a great point, and that's a great analogy to what's happened in the past. I think in 2026, we're going to hear a lot more very close scrutiny of OpenAI's financial outlook, because the hyperscalers have the resources to make these investments. And OpenAI, I don't think does, unless they raise a lot more money.
No, and Sam's done a good job of pissing everyone off here. So, you know, I think, and even Anthropic, they've done a good job to stay in the lane. We're corporate only.
Yeah.
We're going to be more fiscally responsible. And they're going to show we're the responsible ones, reward us, Wall Street. And here's the irresponsible one that's in the crosshairs who doesn't have a hyperscaler behind them here.
Yeah, but what is also pretty important is Google is pushing the right buttons. So they are open sourcing, as I said, this tool for evaluations. This is critical, right, for everybody, and you can use it outside of Google environments. So they're pushing the right tools, and that's also pretty important.
Yeah, I'm going to give this important. You know, I think the I do fear that we have way too much concentration of power as we go into this wave of AI. And I'm almost rooting for the Chinese to open up the open source, part of this thing more broadly, because, the idea of, a couple of companies that are fully integrated in my behavior now having, this becoming a function within, having deep research be a function within any application and having Google dominate that, I think is look, I own Google stock. It's my biggest single holding. I mean, I think they're going to do it, but for consumers, I don't think in the long term it's a good thing. Anyway, important it is. Akash, next.
Hey, the next one comes from Runway, and they have introduced GWM1.
Yeah, what do you think here, Kev?
Fascinating and important, in my view. World models are getting more focus as a way to help train AI models by creating world scenarios, creating counterfactuals and saying, suppose the car went this way instead of that way. I think it has a lot of capabilities within robotics. And so what Runway has done is come up with world models that can help with robotics, that could help with other types of real world simulation. And I think that one of the challenges that I had with this particular announcement is that it's early days and they didn't have a lot of hard use cases about exactly what you can do with these world models. The two that leap to mind are robotics, which they state explicitly, and there's certainly a lot of work to do there, and gaming, because they talk about the ability to create avatars or characters that converse with you for different scenarios. That's great stuff, but I think that this will be essential for AI leaders in certain segments, like robotics, because robots really need to work on the dexterity in particular to develop some of the most compelling use cases. I think models that train self-driving cars could also benefit from these world models, and gaming as well. But yeah, I don't think it's essential because I don't think it is broad enough with its applicability.
All right. Important it is. Luda.
I was going optional here. This is fascinating, the everyday miracle, but and I love the avatars. I do. I'm a believer that avatars will be great to announce things, and now they're more real in this release. But it's really, I think, for AI leaders, it's still optional.
All right, Paul.
Optional and not relevant to many.
Akash.
Optional, John. I think we have discussed previously as well the Marble tool from another lab. Right, we have seen some adoption of it as well. I agree with Kevin's point. It can be useful in many domains, but right now I think it's optional.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to give it an optional, but this whole conversation about the role of real world model and reconceiving data architectures, intelligence, and management processes, I think we're just the beginning of that, because so much of the thinking and architecture of data management and process management has to do with the starting with abstractions. Okay, here's a description of what's going on in the factory, and then a standardization of that, and the creation of data, and then inference and use. I think a lot of it's going to get inverted. We're going to sample reality and see what we know about it, and that's got profound implications, I think, for lots of things, including the whole way that we think about control systems and semantics. So I think the notion of the center of gravity moving from inside the firm to real world models outside the firm, or at least a dialogue between those two things in a robust manner, is going to be architecturally completely different in terms of how we do this stuff.
And John, obviously, Jan LeCun, but Jan LeCun will talk about that for years, and one of the reasons he left in his new startup, and we'll see him next month in Davos. We may see the next year as a big year for innovation on the world model front as well.
Yeah, the scuttlebutt on Jan LeCun is because he screwed up on his prediction of their ability to generate video accurately, because he said that it was going to noise, too much noise is going to get propagated. I think that's when Mark, when Zuck demoted him, fired all his people, and made him report to a 23-year-old.
And I think he was a big proponent of open source. Isn't there an announcement that Meta's going back to closed source?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I missed that announcement, but yes. All right. Other than the two most important things at Meta, Jan LeCun's got it. Okay. Hey, he still might be right, though, but except on the denoising stuff. Next, Akash, I'm showing this one.
You can't offend the king, though.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Whatever. Doesn't matter what they say about you, as long as you're talking about you.
Okay, the next one comes from ZAI, and it is titled AutoGLM Goes Open Source.
Yeah, what do you think here, Akash?
I think, John, this is an optional news. We discussed one similar news, I think, last week as well, where another startup, they were trying to use LLMs to operate a smartphone, and AutoGLM seems to have succeeded in that. And now they have open sourced their model through which they can do that. But still, it's open source. It's coming from a Chinese company, and it's not being adopted anyhow. So for that reason, it's optional, but an interesting area to look forward to.
Yeah, okay. Can you just give a little more for the audience in terms of what AutoGLM does?
Sure. So AutoGLM, it's a full stack system which can operate your mobile phone. So basically, it can handle all the pop-up ads, the network jitter, and all the other friction that other sort of models face while operating your smartphones. And in 2024, they were able to reliably complete a banking workflow end-to-end without using any of the scripts or any APIs, just using the on-screen perception and autonomous actions from AutoGLM. They have open sourced the entire thing now because they feel that users need to have that private environment. So data and privacy should remain with the users. So for that reason, they have open sourced it, but none of the platforms have picked it up to include it in their mobile phones or mobile software. So that's what they have launched. But since it's not in use by anyone, so optional for that reason.
All righty. Fair to think of it as a meta agent on the phone that allows you to get the task level integration. All right. What do you think, Luda?
Yeah, optional news, but I really like the push for the phones and building the infrastructure and architecture to actually get it done. Because when it reaches the maturity that that we need to really take it to scale, this will be on fire. I really do. So it will be the next wave. But at the moment, it's baby steps and it's in the right direction. Optional.
Optional. Kevin?
Yeah, optional. As a consumer, I'm interested to see what's coming next. Some of the use cases and demos they had there were kind of incremental benefits, not necessarily game-changing. So optional.
I'm sure Paul's going to come in at Essential for a product announcement for a very
Really for the food fight.
not yet used, mobile Chinese model.
Yeah,
Paul?
yes, obviously optional.
Optional. All right, next.
Okay, the next one is a case study, comes from AWS, and it is titled How Swisscom Builds Enterprise Agentic AI for Customer Support and Sales Using Amazon Bedrock Agent Core.
Yeah, what do you think here, Kevin?
So AWS is at it again. They're putting a team of deep technical experts onto this. I wish they had waited 6 months because they didn't have a lot of hard results of the use case. For that reason, I'd say it's optional. What they're talking about is Swisscom, which is building an enterprise agentic AI and using it for two use cases in particular, or two groups of use cases: customer support and sales. And they go into a fair amount of detail about how they're using MCP and A2A to ensure agents can speak with each other and can speak with different components that they're getting data points from within the AWS architecture. I think for folks that have decided this is a use case they want to address and have technical teams that are looking for comparison points, great, they should dig into this and learn from it. But you get to the bottom and you see that they're in the process of implementing, so they don't really have any hard business results.
Yeah.
And I think that they also didn't provide detail that I personally would appreciate in a couple cases, which is where do they have agents talking to agents and where do they have humans overseeing what the agents to agents are doing? Because what we've seen, or what I've seen, is that there's a strong desire to maintain human control of what the agents are doing. There was a great survey from Iconic, the investment firm that I think you guys flagged as essential reading a couple months ago, talked about among software companies that are deploying AI, what are your preferred guardrails for governance? The number one guardrail with 60% or more was human control. So I think humans need to stay somewhat in the loop here, and they were a little vague on that point. One other key point, just caveat about AWS, is that it's great stuff. Most organizations have other non-AWS systems that they need to incorporate into their AI projects. And so their use cases are always a little tricky because they're not talking about third-party systems.
Yeah. All right.
All that's to say, optional.
Optional reading. All right. Luda.
Yeah, I say optional. I liked how they laid out the architecture, so there's a lot you can pick from that, but they don't talk about the results. So this is a big negative. So yeah, optional.
Paul?
Yeah, I had as important only because I think it's one of the first ones I've seen out there is talking about both A2A and MCP, but
true.
clearly lacking that. Kevin, I really liked your overview of who's in charge. One of the concepts that John talks about is design with dialogue, where you break a process up into subtasks, and each of the subtasks guess who leads, the robots or the humans.
Okay, yeah.
But on top of that is always a human supervisor of the factory floor, of the agents, of everyone else, in terms of a realistic rollout. But I had it optional.
All right, Ankash.
I was important on this one, John, as Paul mentioned, due to the use of A2A and MCP framework in here. But I'm fine with optional as well because they don't share any quantitative outcomes here.
And I think we're going to see more MCP A2A real case studies, or case studies in production.
Yeah, and the other thing that's kind of fun is Swisscom's, big company, complex sets of issues. You know what I mean? These are in the heart of the kinds of things they're automating. If you understand the cost structure of cost and service structure of a telecommunications company, these are important things, right? These aren't marginal things that they're attacking. So, but yeah, I was very disappointed when I got to the end of this thing in terms of, hey, there's no results, or as you say, or really even description of use, beyond kind of the intended use by the architecture. Anyway, so optional it is. All right, AWS watering down the quality of their case studies. Too bad.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one is a research paper titled Towards the Science of Scaling Agent Systems, and it comes from Google.
Yeah, here we have Google Research, Google DeepMind, and MIT coming together to try to figure out, as far as I can tell, this reminded me of the problem in traditional computer science of thrashing, right? When are you spending too much time optimizing the use of the central processing unit by bringing memory in and out? Anyway, what do you think, Luda?
I rated it as important. I can live with optional, but I think it's an important push. It's quite an involved paper technically, but what this is about is that practitioners, as we see multi-agent systems, MAS, the intuition is to throw more agents, and that will improve performance. But it might or might not be actually correct. And so what they did, they tested 180 controlled configurations, varying across the real world benchmarks like finance, web browsing, planning, workflows, 5 different types of coordination architectures: the single, the centralized, decentralized, independent, and hybrid architectures of agents, and multiple underlying LLMs. And so what they found is kind of interesting, that if you add agents, in some cases, the accuracy goes down up to 70%. And performance very highly depends on this coordination overhead. And we talked about it before. The communication between these agents can take a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So they built a framework, and that's what's important. They build a framework that you can put in your task and get a 87% accuracy prediction of what the architecture should be. So I felt that AI leaders need to be aware that it now exists, and they can engage with it to figure out what the architecture should be. So I rated it important for that reason.
Yeah, and Akash, if we go down to, I mean, we can find figure 2, gives an idea of, basically a prediction, the performance based on different architectures, and have the box plots in there. It's really robust. I mean, one of the beautiful things is stuff coming out of Google Mind and Google Research. It's really serious. I mean, this is serious analysis and engineering. I mean,
Yep.
And I was kind of depressed at the idea. It seems like more centralization equals, better throughput in the main, which I'm again worried about Google in the context of all this, but they're just killing it on engineering this stuff. And really, I think this question of we're working with actually one of our customers on this question of kind of what control architectures and what happens when you add agents and how do those scale. To me, this is absolutely central as to the 2026 agentic landscape. And this is by far the best analytic paper that we've reviewed, in my opinion, on what performance and accuracy look like in the context of that. So, I started off very optional, but it's starting to crank up. Anyway, what do you think here, Kevin?
I think that you and Luda have talked me into important. I was thinking optional, but yes, the more you can standardize measures of performance, the better. There's so many variables to creating an agent-to-agent framework for an enterprise, and the more they can rely on standard protocols such as A2A and MCP, great, but also actual metrics to control and measure accuracy is critical. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. I was going to add one quick note on. I agree, John, with the risk of market concentration with Google on the consumer side. On the enterprise side, I think it's lower risk because there are two other big hyperscalers, so it's more of an oligopoly. And we find, I'm going to correct the number I should provided before, we find that 47%, slightly less than half of AI projects straddle two locations, oftentimes two clouds. So there is the simple reality that most enterprises have more than one cloud and have some hybrid in there, some stuff on-prem. So I think Google's concentration of market power is not as risky in the corporate market as it is on the consumer side. All that's to say, this is an important, great article.
Oligopolies, do a whole bunch of price signaling that then hurts corporates too. I mean, I'm not.
Oligopoly is not good. It's better than monopoly, but.
The problem with oligopolies is that it makes antitrust harder to enforce. So I'm not. Anyway, I can't believe Google can keep their browser. That's another whole conversation. Anyway, Paul.
Well, all smart monopolists want an oligopoly, i.e., Uber. I think this part is really optional. I mean, we can have a big debate if we have the right data here. I'm very skeptical when they have 20 people write a paper. I mean, this feels like more agents, can it do better, and can we get more people here? And I think for the AI leader, I mean, John, we're in these companies all the time. Maybe they have one agent, maybe they have one application with one or two agents here. So I think scalability is a really, really important question here. But for me, I don't want the leader yet spending minutes on this. So optional.
Boy, I just really disagree strongly. I mean, first of all, the aggregation of the number of participants on a paper, I think is only has to do with the architecture of participation in the context of the argument. So if you have a good architecture participation, and hey, John, you go run this test for us, right? And I'm on the paper, but architecture, as long as it's not a dog's breakfast in terms of intellectually how the thing comes together, you can have 100 people on a paper. Doesn't matter. In my experience, anyway, you can have big, complex research projects that interact well. Anyway, Akash, go ahead. You're next up, I think, here, right?
Right, John. I was important on this one, John. I think Luda and Kevin make some great points. So important.
Yeah,
Well, I also disagree pretty strongly about putting it under the carpet. This one, if AI leader doesn't, so I agree that as a general rule, there are not that many multi-agent systems out there because they're very hard to build and they're unruly
Yeah.
at the moment. So that framework makes it so more important for AI leaders to know what are the parameters driving it and how to make it ruly, right? How to make it under control. So it is an important step in the right direction, and they absolutely have to be aware of it. If it wasn't so technical, I would have said essential.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Ashish here. Companies at this point, they're figuring out their agentic architectures. And if you step back and you say, what are going to be the variables that are going to drive the architecture's cost, responsiveness, control, right? Those are going to be the things that you go back in the history of operating systems and all that stuff. Like that was like where the control points that have to do a lot with those three variables. And this is by far the most articulated thing that I've seen that deals into this in a modeling and empirical way. Anyway, Google continues to impress me by the combination of their engineering and computer science together, thinking around scale.
Make sure I'm listening well. And this is architecture of agents within a single application, correct?
No.
No,
This architecture could go. This could be for the whole. Well, it's around 4 applications, but the implications of this way of doing it could it depends on where you draw the boundary of the organization, right? Where does my organization end? And you could, depending upon who has the control point with the interaction, either access or availability or transaction, this could be whole markets. This could be global. I mean, this way of thinking about where the control points sit.
Yeah, so they tested Paul across 180 configurations of various things, right? But at the end of the day, it's a framework that you put in a task, and it tells you what you should be aware of in terms of parameters for your specific task. What's the configuration should be? So it doesn't. I don't think it's that precise. It's 87%, right? But it's high. So, and it will improve. So just knowing that it exists is a good thing.
But the thing that I see, and I know we're beating this up here, but John, we had a briefing with Ryder and Anka, you were on that last week, and they had a nice description of, $25 million more projects being done with custom projects, Copilot on the bottom, and this middle space of, employee based. And can't remember the customers, but anyway, they have large customers, 10 to 30,000. That's the question I keep seeing people ask. What's my agent architecture for 10,000 non-coding employees? I don't see how this helps them.
Oh, sure, it helps them in terms of how centralized it needs to be and where those control points sit. This totally will inform technical policy. Talk about dating myself. I remember reading that the comparison between Ethernet and system and token ring, right, in terms of local systems architecture and like where the
It's really dating yourself, John.
Yeah, but if you go back and you say, okay, well, if you think architecturally, token ring was essentially a hierarchy laid inside. And if you want to critique this article, I would critique it for its inherent hierarchical approach, as opposed to intelligent contexts that the agents sit within. And you could imagine stuff that looks more like DNS in terms of semantic updating in the agentic environment, which would, I think, be scalable in a different way and wouldn't necessarily lead to centralization so profoundly as this does. But
so Paul, and I know we're running out of time. If there are several options, you could engage multi-agent system to do what you were talking about, to enable all these employees to have the access, right? And you can be spending a lot of tokens on communication layer without even knowing about it, right? And then stepping back and saying, I'm spending so much money on that simple architecture. Why, right? So this is a proactive way of looking at it. So I think it's critical, actually.
Yeah, I'm talking myself into essential here, but let's go important. All right, next and last.
Okay, the last one again comes from Google, and it's about Disco.
Yeah. So on this one, I gave this. I was on the fence between optional and important. I went ahead and signed up for Disco. You basically have to sign away, your firstborn and all future generations and stuff in terms of they can do anything with the data. But the look at of it's much more of an agentic feel of how you interact with. You're kind of at the task level in terms of how you interact with the internet and the ability to use Disco to do that. So it. Because it's from Google, because it's new, I was going to give it an optional because it's not even deployed yet, but interesting vector. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, optional, very light on detail, very early. Interesting, but optional right now.
All right, Ankaj.
Optional, John.
Optional. All right, Paul?
Optional.
Luda?
Agree.
All right. Okay, we're going to announcements. Paul?
Yeah, a couple announcements. One is tonight, John, I'll let you tee it up here in a second here. Our Learning Lab tomorrow, we have our, as usual, noon co-pilot. And if we're lucky, we may have a couple prompts for Christmas shopping. So if you're looking for last minute Christmas shopping for your spouse, we can do some one-on-one training tomorrow. And third, John and I continue to really have a lot of good, interesting conversations with executives who are really starting to ask questions about how they become, AI-centric companies here. And John, that's part of your talk tonight, right?
Yes, yeah. Think of my talk as kind of a future back in terms of what is a hybrid organization going to look like? What are some of the economics look like? What are the principles you should think about in doing it? You can benchmark kind of where your organization is and how quickly you need to get there, because it's becoming really, really clear to me that there is no only hybrid organization. I'm completely convinced only hybrid organizations. There'll be a few exceptions, but only hybrid organizations are going to be competitive. And that reality, I think, is going to really come home to roost in 2026. Anyway, with that, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a great AI day. Sorry we ran over, but kind of fun to be with you. Bye-bye now.
Thanks all.